I thought the game required me to do calculations and build complex optimized production chains, and I was fully prepared to do that, but it turns out this game is much simpler than that, and is actually kind of dumb-proof. Don't believe me? I'll show you in a few minutes, but before you learn the best way to place production buildings, you need to learn how to build a proper base for them. I will show you how to tame this spot with calcium deposits, the one you'll be building at in the beginning of the game to unlock the map. It has everything: rough terrain, water, and varying levels of height. First off, once you've located the deposit that you want to work on, find a big rectangular space where you'll put all your production buildings in, and don't encroach on that space with any power generators, base cores, or habitats. This place will be perfect. Now place a base core just so it allows you to build things anywhere. You won't suffer any penalty from dismantling and moving it later. Don't worry about including as many deposits as you can in the base core area, as you can always add more cores or move the one you have. Now figure out the height of your production buildings. You want to build at a height that will allow you to connect the furthest points of your base comfortably in a straight line. In my case, it's these two. You can also take the middle point between your excavators. When you've determined the minimum height, make sure to put down the foundation's supported platform. Raise slightly above the ground because you don't want to face the issue of not being able to build anything because the terrain is uneven. Besides, you sometimes have to crisscross rails, and being able to go slightly under the ground level of your base is very useful. But don't build your base too high either, because then you'll have constant issues with the building not stable error. I'll tell you how to overcome it a bit later, but it's really not worth it to build at the maximum height. You'll want to build platforms before building anything else. These will be your walkways and spaces for rails. Ideally, prepare the whole production space just to be able to see where you can build and where you cannot, because it sucks when you're mid-build and run out of buildable space. When building platforms, you can hold right mouse button to place multiple at the same time, and then click left mouse button to confirm. When you've built them out far enough, you'll get the error "building is not stable." Now, if you look below the platform, you'll see that it doesn't have any pillars, and that's the source of the error. So the next platform has to be supported again. So why not build supported platforms everywhere then? You also can't run under them. Supported platforms have other issues too. For example, if you try to align a supported platform through a valley like this, you'll get the error that the building is not connected with ground. This is because the supported platform only carries one pillar of a fixed height, and when you've exceeded it even by one level, it doesn't add a second pillar under it. I hope the devs fix this, but before they do, you want to add a pillar at the ground level and then attach a full pillar on top of it. Just scroll the mouse wheel. See how it goes under. Now you just need to figure out how many levels the bottom pillar has to be. To do that, scroll back up and you'll see just how big the space underneath it is, and you'll be able to eye the approximate level that the bottom pillar has to be. This is what I meant when I said that you don't want to build platforms at the top of their height, because you have to do this manually for each platform. This also creates problems for placing down buildings, as they too will give the building not stable error. But it's not the buildings that are unstable, it's the platforms attached to them. Look, this is how many unsupported platforms one supported platform can support. As long as you have supported platforms and your building does not replace the only supported platform in the area, it will not give you the error. And if you can't place supported platforms because there's water underneath, just place them all around. At the water's edge, you can also place the pillars and platforms if you just move your mouse slightly like this. And there you have it, the perfect place for placing production. When placing buildings, you don't want to cram them all together because you will need lots of space for rails and rail connections. I have found about 2 tiles between buildings is the best. Still, if you find that you need more space, it's free to deconstruct and rebuild, so don't worry about it too much at the start. You can deconstruct multiple things at the same time if you point your construction tool at the thing that's holding it all together. For example, I can deconstruct all the stairs here if I just deconstruct the top one. Also, if you don't yet have the building drone that allows you to build with top-down view, you can get it by completing this order from Clever Robotics. To use it, make sure to first equip the building tool and then click C. Until then, it might be extremely hard to align buildings. To make it easier, press Y when looking at an already constructed platform to lock in height, so that you don't have to manually adjust the height of each building when placing it. Some buildings have alternative sizes, like rail connections and the orbital cargo launcher. Just click right mouse button and this will change the size, like this. Okay, now, like I promised, I will show you the most optimal way to build production lines without having a breakdown. You see, when I was starting the game, even though I saw that the materials are never sent from storage or excavator across rails unless there is demand, the so-called pull system, I still built my layouts according to the push system, where items are sent automatically from the source regardless of whether there is demand or not. This made me create these layouts where I calculated how much input is needed to power smelters, then how many fabricators I need to deal with the outputs of the smelters, then how many are needed to produce the next thing, and so on and so on. For example, these two smelters produce titanium bars. This one then serves as input for two fabricators to make titanium rods, and this one to make titanium sheets. They then combine to make tubes, which at first were going into an orbital cargo shipper, and now are going into a furnace to make inductors. Other input materials have to be shipped from elsewhere. You can see this whole production here is for wolfram wire. And all of these production chains that I built stand unused right now. This is very inflexible. Imagine how big my base would have to be to make just one late game material and how much time I would spend to create the whole chain from scratch every time. Do not do this. You'll waste your time for nothing. Instead, here's what you have to do. Instead of figuring out how many smelters you need and how many fabricators you need for them, think only about the throughput of your rails. So if you only have access to the first rail, you can transfer 120 materials per minute or 2 per second, which means you can connect 2 excavators of impure ore per each rail. By the way, the difference between impure and pure ore is the output of your excavators. When mining super pure ore like this, your excavator outputs 8 titanium every 2 seconds. Excavating pure ore like this results in 4 titanium per 2 seconds, while this impure ore nets us 2 ore per 2 seconds. So the most basic rail in the game can handle either 2 impure excavators or 1 pure, and power exactly 1 smelter. Smelters release the same amount as they receive, and seeing that fabricators can make use of only 1 titanium bar every 2 seconds, you can have 2 fabricators for each smelter, which ties in nicely with 120 materials per minute per rail. What I would usually do next is calculate how much titanium housing can be produced from the outputs of 2 fabricators and build accordingly. Then I would calculate the same for titanium rods and so on, and I'd have separate productions going in parallel. That's not how you do it. Don't separate productions. Hook them all up. I recommend you forget about calculations for everything starting from here. It doesn't matter how much titanium housing you can produce in a second because you will spend more time optimizing it than the time you will save from fulfilling a few corporation orders faster that actually require this titanium housing or a product from it. Again, think only about the throughput of your rails. Hook all the outputs of the smelters together and hook all the outputs of the fabricators together in one line too, and then connect them to the next buildings on the production line. Having troubles placing all the rails? Increase the space. For me, 2 or 3 tiles is enough. Remember that you can rotate rails themselves when attaching them to connectors. Your rails get clogged? Add more rails. Reduce the number of buildings. Change the path of the lines you have. Or don't do anything at all. I found this setup to be the most optimal for production of titanium products and has no downtime at all when everything is being produced at full capacity. But more often than not, some buildings are idling just because there is no demand, so if you build your base like this, I can assure you that you won't be wasting any meaningful production potential at all. Then, hook all the outputs to the same rails again, or put them through depots to have a buffer. In this example, I have depots for all the titanium products that can be produced in the game and are used elsewhere down the line. And it doesn't matter that they produce different materials. The drones on the rails are smart in this game and they'll figure out where stuff needs to go. Also, remember that buildings with 2 and more inputs can handle both materials being sent on one rail. It's easy to forget, but you don't need 2 rails just because the recipe is asking for 2 different materials. You already know that you'll connect these to rows of orbital launchers, other production buildings and cargo dispatchers that connect to distant bases that produce other materials. Don't forget to hook together the inputs and outputs of whatever you produce next, because remember, stuff will be sent only when there is demand for it. If you remember it and follow the principle, you'll never have to deal with complex and manageable spaghetti of rails and builds that repeat one another just because you need another rotor, but can't find the space to put some more rail to get it out from your previous setup. The only thing you will have to do once you finish the build is add new recipes to your furnaces and presses and choose what you're sending to the corporations next. It will be so much better and easier for you, pinky promise. Inevitably, you'll reach a point where you have to connect multiple cores to expand your factory. That's totally fine and your cores will just share the buildings that happen to overlap. I have found connecting multiple cores much better than upgrading an existing one. Upgrading a base core does not expand the buildable area, it just lets you have more buildings inside the existing area. But if you take a look at my base here under core level 1, conjoined with another base core level 1, you'll see that I'm totally fine the way it is. Is it my great super efficient layout that I talked about, or is it the game that's not fully balanced or updated yet, with more reasons to upgrade the core? I don't know, but right now it's not worth it. Not only does it cost a lot of resources, but you will also have to defend yourself against alien attacks when you start upgrading it. Some people report aliens respawning and constantly attacking the base when it's upgraded even to the second level. Sounds fun when you're done with the game otherwise, but before that I prefer to build in peace and quiet, which is why I have avoided upgrading the core myself. Let us all know in the comments what your experience has been if you've upgraded the core. Furthermore, if you find that your core doesn't let you build as far as you like into one direction that you want, you can just dismantle it and move it. Your buildings and rails will stay standing, they just won't be operating and you won't be able to build new buildings until you place down the core. By the way, if you do intend to fight aliens down the line, make sure to place the core in an open area because that's where they gravitate towards when they attack, and you want to have as much space as possible for fighting them and placing turrets. If you happen to want to move your whole base, however, you can deconstruct it all by just approaching your core and clicking here. And there you have it. Hope this helps you and let me know if it does, it's amazing to receive feedback on these. And be sure to check comments, I'll write there if something changes in the game about what I said here, and I'm also thinking about releasing a second part to this where I explore my endgame base layout in more detail. If I will, the link will be here and in the comments, check it out. Otherwise, check out my other videos and goodbye.